So you remember that yesterday we basically worked on the chat history here and the normal chat section, the chats that we're having with our AI. And in this part of or this episode, we want to quickly work on the functionality that allows us to create a new chat and also save this chat and use that chat to create a search history. All right, so it's not going to be anything too complicated. It's actually very simple, so let's just not waste too much time and just get to it. All right, okay, so first of all, before we do anything, I need us to change a few things. We want to make sure that our code is as uniform as possible, so let's make sure that this is capital, just like how our chat model here is also capital over here, right? Then we need to change a few things. The last time we made a mistake here, I was supposed to make it a comma. Now the thing is, before usually in a situation like that, it's more of TypeScript, right? So it might have crossed my mind, something like that. So but yeah, this is the actual correction. Now that we've been able to work on that, we need to do a few things. Let me collapse all of these. Let me collapse all these things so we don't get confused. So inside the backend right now, let's just start something. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a new folder called routes. So inside the routes folder, okay, it looks like that. Yeah, we already created that here, so just create it. Right, so after creating the routes folder, what you want to do is you want to create chat.routes.js, right? Chat.routes.js. So you have chat.routes.js. Then what you want to do is you want to say const, and then you want to pick out the router module or the router package, or module out of the express package itself, right? So you're going to take it out of the express package. Yes, I know a lot of the times you see videos do something like router, and they'll require, and then they'll just get the express, and basically at the end here they will just take out the router like this and initialize it. Yes, that one is also correct. Okay, so, and I mean, I don't know, looking at this thing again, I feel like the second one is actually much more faster. So let's just clear. I mean, I think for the before, what I was going to do was I was going to take this and then say router, and then now come and initialize the router here, right? But I mean, looking at it, I feel like the second one, the one that I tried explaining, yeah, that one is way faster. So now that we have this, we want to make sure that we are exporting it by default. So module exports, then router. All right, now that we've been able to export it, we need to start by writing a few things, right? So we're going to take the router, and then we are going to make a post request, right? We're going to set our router to make a post request. Okay, so post. Okay, so inside this post request, you want to set the destination, or the request URL destination to chat, right? The endpoint, you want to set it to chat. But we wouldn't do that chat thing here, right? We will do it when we are linking it to our index.js, right? If you watch the previous videos, you realize we have like this separate folder for just routes, where we basically write this function that automatically assigns them this long process stuff, right? But in this part, I mean, we are not really working with much, so I don't want us to waste too much time on a lot of things in architecture, right? So let's just do it. Okay, so first of all, we are going to make sure that this is an asynchronous function, right? Then we are going to say this request, and then we are going to pass in the response. Then after we open up our curly braces, right? Then inside the curly braces, these are the few things that we want to do. Okay, this is what we want to do. We want to take the user ID and then the text from the request or body from the front end, right? Let's do it. So I'm going to say this is the user ID here, right? And then this is the text. Okay, so So the user ID and then a text, you are going to be taking it from the request.body, right? So what we can do is, okay, let's first of all log out the results that we are getting, right? So we can log out the results by saying user ID and then text. Okay, now so that we know that, oh yeah, we are actually passing what we want to pass through the routes, right? All right, now that we have logged it, now that we've been able to log it out, let's go to the index.js here. Then let's quickly import the chat route. So I'm going to say const chat routes. Then I would quickly require from the routes folder, which is here. So the routes folder and then chat.routes. Okay, if you're using the type module that you set in your package.json, like some people just do type, some people just do type and they set it to module, right? You're going to have to be adding .js. Like if you do import something, import this from that, you're going to have to keep adding .js. But for common JS, it's not a necessity. So yeah, you're safe there. Yeah, so that's basically it for that. And now that we've been able to import our chat routes, what we are going to do is right below here, we want to make sure we want to make sure that our main application recognizes. So let's come down here instead and then say app.use. So app.use, and then how do we link it? We will say API slash v1, right? So API slash v1 slash what chats. So chats, and then we'll link it to what the chat routes or whatever other endpoints that are inside the chat routes. So now that we have this all working, looking through this, I need us to make a few more changes so we don't get any unnecessary errors in the future. Make sure that this is credentials, so the credentials is set to true. Always make sure that whenever you are setting up your cross origin request with your Express, make sure that this thing is working. And we do not need this one that we took from image kit, because I don't know, it wasn't working anyways. So we are just going to take that one out. And you can see, if you remember from the previous videos, this is where our client URL, this is where we were getting it from, right? Okay, so now that we've been able to set up the index.js as well, I want us to go to the front end and then do a few things. So as you all know, how I make my videos, whenever I make my videos, I make sure that we have a separate folder here dedicated to just the APIs. It makes us it makes calling APIs pretty simple inside the application and like very modular, so you can target and work on different aspects of the application at specific times. You know, it's scalable basically. So this is a separate folder for just APIs. We are just going to create a simple index.js inside. So we have our index.js inside. Then inside our index.js, we want to basically create a module that allows us to reach out to our endpoints and just passing the values simply, right, without actually overpopulating our components with unnecessary long links, right? So what we are going to do is, I'm just going to split the terminal somewhere in the middle here, and I'm going to cd again into front end. Then I would say npm I Axios. We are going to have to install Axios, and you know that this is React 19 and it's not stable, so you're going to have to add the force flag, and then Axios is going to have to install. So right after Axios is installed, we are going to have to import Axios from Axios, right? So we have to import Axios from Axios. And now that we have Axios, what we are going to do is, I'm going to say const API is equal to, then we'll take the Axios here that will create. So we use the create function that is found inside the inbuilt one, the create method that is inside, right? Then inside we'll pass in the base URL. And then what is the base URL? The base URL is obviously the one that we have right below here. So what we are going to do is you're just going to copy it and then pass it inside here, right? If you deploy an application, you're going to have to pass in your deployed application here, the deployed backend here, right? The endpoint. So yeah, inside, if you check our backend, you realize that at the end of the day we always have API slash v1 also at the end, and then the rest of it just becomes dynamic, right? Then when we are done, we make sure that we pass in with credentials so that we do not get any unnecessary errors again in the future. All right, so now that we have both of these working, we want to create a new function called add add chat, right? I think, yeah, a new function called add chat. So basically what this function is basically going to be doing is it's going to help us add a new chat to our AI, like save it into the database and also save the chat history of that particular chat, right? So inside here that we have, oh damn, yeah, so inside here that we have this add chat here, right? What we are going to do is I'll just equate it. So I'll just equate it to what, this this open parameter bracket here, right? Then inside this open parameter bracket, since you are taking the user ID and we are also taking the text, we'll just pass them in as parameters. Then we will say API dot what, it's a push request that we were looking at trying, right? We were trying to mess around with. So we take this push request and then inside we pass in chats like how we did in our index.js, right? Then right inside here that we want to pass the body, we can just pass in the user ID because it's the same thing. Like it could have been user ID, but it's not really necessary because like user ID is still the same user ID. So now we pass in text, right? So it's like, I mean, it's the same text. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like I'm trying to say that if you look at the chat routes here, we are taking user ID object and then text object, and we are just taking it from the request.body. Like it's not like we are taking text here, right? And then inside our front end, the place where we are taking the variable that we are storing the text inside is called prompt. If that was the case, when we come to this place, we would have to make it text is going to be what, prompt, right? Then from that one you are going to have to pass it in here, you see, something like this. But that's not the case, it's just text and user ID. So we are just going to work it out through that, right? So yeah, now that we've been able to set this up, let's make sure that we are exporting it so that we can use it anywhere that we intend to. So I just exported it. Then I'll go into okay, so yeah, now let's go into the dashboard here, the dashboard page here. Now you realize that in the previous section it was, I think, the new prompt part. I think this is where we're working stuff out, right? Let's just comment this out. Let's simply comment this out, right? And then let's go to the dashboard and then set stuff up. Okay, so what we are going to do is, even though we've commented it out, let me uncomment it, copy it, comment it back again, come here and get inside here, and then I'll just put this in, right? So you see this handle submit, right, that we have here, this handle submit. I'm quickly going to go into this form, and then we would add, so we'll say on submit has to be what, handle submit. Alright, so this handle submit is going to be handled by our on submit, and then you can see that the text here that is being received is received from an e.target.prompt.value, and then inside the previous one, the new prompt, you remember that inside the inputs here we made the name prompt, right? So you can quickly just copy that and then come here, come to where the input is, and then we quickly have to paste it. It's very simple. So now that we have this working like how we want it to work, what we are going to do is, you see this run prompt that is here, we just have to take that off, and then we'll create like this simple try catch block. So this try catch will just log out the error for the meantime in case there is any. So we'll log out the error, and then right over here we are just going to await add chat, right? So you see that it's just getting imported. Very simple, no need to write any long endpoint strings. So right after that, we are going to have to take the user ID from clerk, and then we are going to have to take the text from this side, right? So how are we going to take it from clerk? What we are going to do is, I'm going to say const, then I'll over here I'll just take the user ID object that is inside the clerk. So from there we'll take it from the use auth hook. So this use auth hook we have to import from clerk. So how do we do that? I'll just import use auth, right? And then we'll take that from clerk react. So at clerk, right? So yeah, you can see this is it. This is our user ID. So let's quickly pass the user ID inside, then we pass in what's the text. All right, so it's just going to pass through this module. Just going to come here. All right, we're already accessing the chats endpoint, then the user ID has already been passed and the text has already been passed, as you know, through the body, right? So now that we know this, right, what we can do is I can just test by writing some random text here, and then we should see it appear here since we just logged it out on the server. So let's quickly type hello and let's try. So as you can see, you're getting an error here. Okay, it says const. All right. So actually the issue here is we have failed to this. So okay, let me just collapse all of this, right, so we don't get confused. We come to the back end, we'll come, and then we have to make sure that whatever data that we are passing through the front end is recognizable by our server. So we'll do that by saying app.use, then we'll say what, express.json and this. All right, so just let me refresh the server one more time. We'll do that by just doing Ctrl S to save manually. All right, so we just, okay, so it's here. Then you would come and hit enter, and then as you can see, this is the user ID and hello, right? So we have both of these bad boys being printed out into the terminal. Okay, now that we have seen these bad boys being printed into the terminal, let's move on to the next thing. Now the next thing is very crucial, but it's quite simple. What we are going to basically be doing is taking these two things that we are taking from the body, or these two values that we are getting from the body. We are going to write a function to make them create a new chat and then create the chat history, right, or the user chat. So how are we going to do that? Let's first of all start by creating a try catch block. We can do that by using this snippet. Then over here we can first of all log out the error, right? We can log out the error, and then at the end of the day we can also send a response dot status. So the status of the response is going to be 500 as usual for internal server error, so 500. And then we are going to say that just send this JSON message saying an error occurred creating chat, right? So now that we have this, I don't know if, okay, let's do it like this. So now that we have this all working, right, inside the try block, we are going to have to create a new chat there. So we'll say const new and chat. So this chat is supposed to allow us import what is inside the model. You can see that it was easily imported. So you can see, so over here inside this new yeah, so yeah, there's this thing that we are doing here. So new chat, right? Then we equate it to new, and then this chat model that we just imported, right? So inside the chat model, what do we want to do inside? First of all, we want to take the user ID, right? If you look inside the chat model here, you realize that we need a user ID at first, right? And it's required. So let's pass in the user. So we say user ID, and like I told you before, user ID is still user ID, like no real changes. So we can just leave it as user ID, or we can set it as user ID, right? Either way, the one that makes you understand it well, you just follow, right? It will make you stay out of trouble. So history, so this history is going to, so you see the column, the colon, and then inside the square brackets we bring the curly braces, and then we need to assign a role. So we'll say that the role is what, user, and then we'll say that after the role we want to say the parts, right? And the parts is also going to be an array, and then this array is going to contain an object text. You get it? So yeah, like I said, you can either remove this, make it stay that way, because I mean it's still the same thing, right? Or you can just assign it to it just so you are safe. Okay, but yeah, but come to think of it, right? I'm looking at this and then I'm feeling like we should assign it to it, because you see this one was actually a field inside, right? So if we are going to assign a new user ID, we need to actually know that this is the user ID field. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you have to do it like this anyways. So yeah, it's good that we are learning as we keep going. So this is the new chat that we've created here, right? At the end of the day, even though we've been able to create the new chat, right, and then we've been able to pass in the history, and basically the row, and then the parts, right? Now we want to be able to write a variable that would help us store the new chat, and at the same time put it inside a certain variable that we use to store the chat history. Right? So in order for us to be able to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to come right below here, right? And then we are going to say const created chat, right? So this created chat is going to be await new chat dot save, right? So new chat dot save. After new chat dot save, we need to create the user chat, which is supposed to be the chat history, right? So for that, what we are going to quickly do is we say const user chat, right? Then we are going to await what? Oh, I'm sorry. We are going to await user chat that we get from the model. Okay, so no need. Let's import. I think we were supposed to fix this. Yeah, we did fix it, but I guess we didn't transfer. So I'll just copy this and put this in here, and then we'll go back to the chats, and then we'll do Control Z, then try to bring it back. Yes, so it's here now. So we say the user chat find. Now what are we finding? We want to find it with the user ID, right? So yes, you see, for this one we can just pass it in. I don't know, you can try, right? The thing that I mentioned here, you can try, because I mean, programming, you can't really know everything. You just have to try, get bugs and fix them. So you can try and give me a response in the comments. But yeah, but now that we have the user chat, we want to do a few checks, right? We want to say something. We want to say that, oh, if there are no user chats, right? If there are no user chats belonging to this particular user, right, then what we are going to do is we are going to basically create a new one for that particular user. So we just have to say const what, new user chats, right? Then after the equal to, we say new user chat, right? So this one we just have to pass in a few things, which first of all is the user ID, right? So this user ID, then after the user ID we take the chat here, so the chats field here, then we basically open it up and we can take this ID here, and then we pass in the created chat dot ID, right? So the created chat dot ID, the created chat that we saved over here, its ID. Then after we pass, then we take the title, you see, because like every chat history here, right? So we take the title, and then we take the text, right? The text that we collected. Then you see that the answers will be long, right? So maybe you want to take the first 40 characters. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So for that we say text, then substring, so text substring 0 and 40. All right, now that we have both of these bad boys in there and in place, we want to basically say, oh, in case you've been able to work all these things out, just save that new chat history, right? So new user chats dot what save, you get. So you just initialize like this. Now we have this, right? We have like a whole new user chat history here, right? But we want to be able to make sure that if there already is a user chat available inside the database, what we want to do is now want to push or we now want to update the user chat history, right? So how are we going to do that? Now what we are going to do is we are going to say await, right? Then this await is going to go into the user chat side, right? Then we would update one. So we will update one. Then inside this update one, we want to first of all take the user ID as usual, as you can see. So I mean our principle still stands, the one that I was talking about. So we have this user ID here. Then right after we've been able to find this user by his user ID, we want to go to the chat section, right? We want to go to the chat section. Now inside the sorry mistake. So once we find this user, right, what we want to do is we want to perform a few things. So we would basically push, right? So we'll push a few things inside. So here, what are we pushing? We take the chats, right? We take the chats and then push a new chat object inside the chats array. Okay, so what we are going to do is this, okay, then created chats dot id, then we take the title as well. So I'll just copy this. Right now, as you can see, right after we are done, we want to come down here. And then print out, or we want to send out a response. And then what is this response? The response is going to be the new chat dot id, right? The new chat id. And the reason why we are passing this response is because whenever you click on a new chat, we want to make sure that we navigate to that particular new chat's id and then just display that only that chat history, right? Like only, so if you just click on this, we just take its id and then we just display whatever history, right? So we're going to send the response, let's make it okay. So JSON, then inside here we'll make it what, new chat dot what, id. Okay, then let's change the status. Right, so now that we've been able to set this up, right, we've already worked on the front end and how we are passing data to the back end, right, and we are logging out that data. So what does it mean? What it means now is we can actually test to see if our chat actually works. So let's quickly refresh the page over here, and then I'll quickly just type hello ma, and I would hit enter, and as you can see there are no errors displaying. I've also not opened the inspect element to check the console, but we can go straight to the database and then try to find out. So just come, I'll refresh the database. Okay, so you can see this is neurofeed AI. Okay, as you can see this is a new chat collection. Okay, so this is first chat, so first chat, second chat, right? So you can see hello ma, you see. So yeah, so you can see this is the latest one that we created. Over here you can see that we have two array objects, right, where we are storing the chat history for each user. Okay, so I mean that's basically it for this part. We just wanted to quickly work on how to basically create a new chat and manipulate it a bit inside the database, right? In the next part it's not going to be difficult. The next part is we don't want to pass the user ID directly through the body, because from what I know and what I've heard, it's actually not safe. So we are going to be using the clerk node.js SDK, and then like with the SDK we should be able to set things up in such a way that we just take it directly from the request. All right, so hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.